in Be 2 Weeks Ready, we use the word community. And typically when people think of community, they think of their neighborhood and people that they live directly around, where that's correct. But with Be 2 Weeks Ready, we have expanded that to any social group that you're a part of. And we did that because we don't know where we're going to be when disasters happen. So the more social circles that have that base level knowledge of preparedness, the better we will be in bouncing back after the disaster. So this could be neighborhood associations that all of you are a part of. It could be members of a place of worship, 4-H club, staff at a school, co-workers, any group of people that spend time together. So our goal with Be 2 Weeks Ready is that all these different groups across the state learn how to be prepared together, share resources, learn who might need extra help in a disaster, who maybe has extra resources to share. So we wanted this program to be very accessible to all Oregonians. So we started with translating the toolkit into the top 5 languages in Oregon, which is English, Spanish, Vietnamese, Chinese, and Russian. And just a few weeks ago, we posted to our website and our YouTube channel, American Sign Language videos. So there are 40 total videos for each unit and each activity, which is very exciting. And after my presentation, I'll drop a bunch of links into the chat so you can check those out. We are going, as funding allows, every year we're going to translate it into at least one additional language. One of the languages for sure that we're translating into in 2025 will be Korean. So we will continue to add languages, and our goal is to have a large library of languages that the toolkit is available in. So how the program works, we have the individual structure where the toolkit, which I'll get into and explain the components, it's on our website. Anybody can view it at any time. They can go through whichever units they want to, and it's just self-paced. Then we have the community structure. That is where you have someone who is coordinating outreach, bringing community groups together, and leading in-person meetings. With the community structure, you get a printed toolkit. They look like this. They're printed and bound really nice. They're yours to keep. You can make notes, write in them. So that's something that you get if you are coming in person as a group and learning together. So the program is broken down into 4 roles. First, you have the preparedness coordinator, which is me at OEM. I oversee the program and I provide ongoing support and resources and the printed toolkits to the program coordinators, which those are people who are in a training or outreach or network role within their community. So neighborhood leader, CERT leader, anybody who is in that sort of role. So they do a 4.5-hour virtual training with me. We just had one today. We have another one in February. I do 2 every quarter. They learn about the program, how to implement it, how to facilitate the entire toolkit. And then they go back to their community and they say, hey, who wants to help me share this message? Because the more people that you have to share the message, the more people that you can reach. And those people are called community hosts. So people from that community that want to step up, become familiar with the toolkit, and facilitate these in-person discussions about how to be prepared. And then the communities, that's the group of people who are coming, spending their time learning about how to be prepared and taking the steps to build their go bag, sign up for alerts, and build their preparedness. So the toolkit, it's, like I said, it's online. It's 90 pages, 45 pages when it's printed because it's front and back. 8 units of preparedness, 3 to 4 activities per unit. And the toolkit, I'll go back real quick. So we have the information, the content for the program coordinators. The program coordinators are the subject matter experts on the community. They know how best the information should be shared, whether that's a once-a-month meeting where they focus on a different topic, whether that's just one meeting and they condense it down to a couple of hours.
Available?
Yeah. Each unit only takes about an hour, maybe a little less to go through. So you can even condense it down a little more. We designed it this way because every community is different. Every community has different needs and are impacted by different hazards. So by having someone from that community coordinate that outreach and facilitate these discussions, they can speak to those specifics in your community. Hey, what's going to happen if that bridge goes out? What's the plan with waste? What are we going to do with all of our garbage? That program coordinator can reach out to sanitation companies, to the utility companies, to first responders, say, hey, can you come and help us have this discussion around waste and hygiene, around a water plan, so they can supplement those meetings with other subject matter experts. So what we cover in the toolkit, the first unit is preparing to prepare, and it focuses on mentally preparing for living through a disaster. Many Oregonians have experienced some sort of disaster that's really impacted them, whether that be a wildfire, an ice storm, flooding, long-term power outage. So it's talking about how, but then there are people that maybe haven't experienced something like that. So it's taking that assessment of, hey, here's a scenario. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. You're woken up by shaking. Your phone alert is going off. Things are falling off the walls. How might you be feeling? And then we ask you questions about your preparedness. Are your big pieces of furniture secured? Do you have extra water? Do you have extra food? Just to kind of take an assessment and get you thinking about, okay, I'm more prepared than I thought, or, oh, I never actually thought about this one particular thing. So it's just that initial assessment that kind of kicks off all of the other units. So then unit 2 is your emergency plan. How are you going to contact your loved ones? How will you know when a disaster is happening? What should you have in your go bag? Things like that. This is a great unit because it covers a lot of things that don't take any, that there's no cost to do, just takes a little bit of time. So signing up for alerts, sitting down with your loved ones, hey, what are we going to do? Where would we evacuate to? What are some local community shelters? That's my personal favorite to teach. And then we have unit 3, your food plan. So what are some shelf-stable foods that you can keep in preparation for a disaster, foods that your family likes, some low cost and then more expensive ways to build up that food supply, and then some safety considerations when it comes to food. Then we go into a water plan. How much water should you have per person per day, person and pet per day in your household? How do you make sure that your water is safe? Where should you store your water? What if you don't have a lot of space where you live? So we talk about all of that. And then unit 5 is waste and hygiene. If you don't have running water, what do you do? So pit toilet, 2-bucket system. How do you make sure that you maintain privacy for everyone in your household? How do you have good hygiene, washing your hands, all those important things? How do you do laundry? How do you dispose of waste? And then unit 6, shelter plan. This is our longest plan. Unit 1 is our shortest. It's a page and a half. Unit 6 is about 7 pages, but there are a lot of graphics on it. It's not just text. So we talk about learning about the hazards in your specific area. What are some things that could happen? What are some things that you can do before an emergency to make your living space safer? Things that, would only take you a few minutes, some things that might take a little bit more time and resources, and then what are some maybe bigger projects long-term that you need to do? And then we talk about safety and damage assessment immediately following an earthquake, making sure everyone around you is safe, checking for alerts, being aware of aftershocks, checking your home for damages, just kind of a checklist to go through immediately following that. And then we talk about first aid. What are some things that you can have in a first aid kit? The Oregon's Good Samaritan law, so how you can not be held liable if you are assisting someone who is in need. And we talk about different first aid classes that you can take. Wilderness first aid, American Red Cross, how it's important to know CPR. And then the last unit is all about emergency management. So we talk about what does FEMA do? What is emergency management, first off? What does FEMA do, which is the Federal Emergency Management Agency? What does OEM do, which is where I work at the state level? And then what does a local emergency manager do? So talks about signing up for alerts, following your local emergency management office on social media, and just really being aware of what's going on in your area. And then we also talk about CERT, Community Emergency Response Teams, how to get involved and the role that they play in preparedness. So those are all the units. And then we have activities tied to each unit. So that's a great thing to do if you're bringing a group together, talk about the material, but then do an activity together. It's a great thing. So if you're interested in bringing this to your community, you can reach out to me if you want to know, hey, does somebody already a program coordinator who can come and facilitate these discussions? Or if you want to become a program coordinator, like I said, I host 2 trainings a quarter. The next ones will be April and May. I haven't determined the dates yet because there's a lot going on in those months, but I'll do a 2 a quarter for the foreseeable future. So there's always an opportunity to become involved. If anyone can be a program coordinator, you just need to be in some sort of outreach, networking, or training role in your community. Basically, you have the ability to bring people together and have the time to coordinate these meetings and this outreach and find your community hosts. A community host can be anybody who is passionate about preparedness and wants to help their community be prepared. And then communities, any group of people in Oregon that want to be more prepared and learn about Be 2 Weeks Ready. So you can email community.preparedness. I'll also put this in the chat if you would like to find a program near you, or hey, can you please put me on the list to send the training invite to when those training dates are announced. And then you can go on our website, which I'll also put in the chat, to view the toolkit and the ASL videos if you would like. So that's the program. We're still building it. So as people go through the program coordinator training, as communities are receiving the information, please share feedback. If there are other languages that you would like to see the toolkit in, please let me know. But anytime, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and I'm happy to chat about the program.
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
So how can you access this training?
Oh, Erica, we're gonna allow Yuli to speak first before we take substantive questions. I'm so sorry I didn't make that clear.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no problem at all. Yeah, same. Matt, did you have a question about clarification of something that Kayla talked about, or can you hold
No,
your question?
can you back up 1 slide?
Oh, sure.
Perfect. Thanks, Matt.
That's the one. And
Perfect.
boom, screenshot.
Perfect. And
Thank you.
Kayla said she'll also put those links in the chat so we can capture them. But thanks for slowing us down there, Matt. That's good. So yeah. So Kayla, thank you so much. And I hope you're able to stay through the end of the meeting so we can be sure to get in the Q&A part of the meeting.
Yeah,
great.
I'll be here.
All right. So good. So thank you. And so I'd like to, once again, if people join later, my name's Sandra Bishop. I'm with the JWN network, the JWN neighbors, and I'm on the chairing their disaster preparedness committee. So, but want to introduce Yuli Reich, and Yuli is joining us from Woodburn. And Yuli started as a volunteer firefighter in Corvallis, where he worked from, I think it was the early 80s till 86. And then in 1991, he started volunteer firefighting with the Woodburn Fire District. And in the late 1990s, the Woodburn Fire District had a CERT team that disbanded after the organizer left the department, And then the team came back to life in 2013 and has been an active part of the Woodburn response through the fire department ever since. And so I want to have Uli come on and tell us a little bit about his experience with how CERT is integrating in and working with the new program. So Uli, are you there?
I'm here.
Perfect, thanks.
So thank you, Kayla, for doing a phenomenal job introducing this program. When Kayla first started, probably within the first 2 to 3 weeks, I got on her email and said, we need to figure something out. And she's been a phenomenal resource for the CERT program and putting this Be 2 Weeks Ready program together. And we started September, October last year. We started to put the word out that this is coming, and we had we do monthly refreshers, and we had discussions in the CERT meetings, what we're going to do and to what extent we're going to be involved in this. And then we had I had taken the program coordinator for Be 2 Weeks Ready from Kayla. And then she provided me with the information for the community host program. And we had that meeting, and we had, I believe, 4 or 5 people that went through that class. And it took probably, I want to say 2-3 hours, maybe 3.5, almost 4 hours. 2 hours was a little quick, but about 3.5, 4 hours to get through that part. And hindsight on that part is probably that it may need to be a little bit more than that, a little bit more in depth. But it worked out all right. We did our first class beginning of middle of October was then the first class. We have a very large senior citizens community, and we talked to them at their coffee hour in the morning and had people sign up. And we ended up with 13 or 14 people that had signed up for it. And the program hosts, they decided that instead of doing it every 4 weeks, to give people the opportunity to complete some of the activities that are part of each one of the units, they were going to do it every 2 weeks. So they did a class on Tuesday afternoons at 4 o'clock at Senior Estates, and they took a break over the Christmas holidays, and they just completed the last unit a couple of weeks ago. And out of the 13, 14 people that started it, 11 completed the class. We have also tried to start a Be 2 Weeks Ready class in Spanish. And I have a part of the CERT team is a Hispanic pastor, and he's very passionate in making this happen. He's a CERT trainer, and he was going to make this happen. And his group spent probably the 2 days before the class, which was going to be on October 17th. They spent calling all the people, making sure that everybody knew, yes, it's gonna happen, where it's gonna happen. And they had certain commitments from 18 to 20 people. And when the time came to open up the doors, I think 2 or 3 of them showed up. So which was a little bit disheartening. And so we're in the process of regrouping a little bit on to see how we're going to get the Hispanic community, specifically the Hispanic community, more involved in being emergency prepared. And this is a perfect vehicle because it doesn't take the 20 to 24 hours for a CERT program, and it's available to everybody. And being able to involve the entire family to be emergency prepared. For probably the biggest thing, we want to do as many classes as we can. I've got some people that are chomping at the bits to teach some of these classes. Space is not a problem. I've got room at the fire department. We've got some room at the police department, senior states, and some churches. But probably the biggest part is getting the word out into the community that this training is available and the benefits that being able to take care of yourself, because 75 to 80% of the help that you're going to get in the emergency, in case of an emergency, comes from friends, families, and neighbors. And on the one hand, the Hispanic community is very self-reliant. But on the other hand, when something big happens, and this is very much geared towards the Cascadia subduction zone earthquake part, but whether it's a ice storm, a windstorm, something even in 2020 when the wildfires came around and blew the smoke around, everybody to some extent needed some help. And so figuring out a way to reach the communities is one thing that we're still struggling with a little bit to get the word out. This training is available, that not the city, the county, or the state, or the federal government is going to come and take care of you when something big happens. And so that's our next big step, to figure out an effective way to get the word out there that these are the things that you can do, and here the resources are available. You can either do it on your own online, or you can come to the fire station and we can train together at the fire station, talk about these things on each one of the units. The nice thing is they're only about an hour long or a little bit less, but they involve the entire family to be involved in making sure that when the day comes, that it's not if, but when, that everybody knows what to do and has and how to take care of themselves and the family. And I do have, and we've talked about with the mayor, and we're working on getting a program out with the city through the library, and so whatever whatever means of social media, we're going to come up with a plan to make sure that the word gets out there. I keep thinking that every once in a while you see on TV some emergency message that's provided by your local TV station and your ad council, and how to get on TV to get that message out, but I haven't quite figured that one out yet. So I'm going to have to deal with how I'm going to get the community in Woodburn, and we have a very large Hispanic community. Hispanic community is probably 60+% of Woodburn population. We have large Russian population and a very large senior citizen population in a city of about 35 to 38,000 people, including surrounding areas. And so getting the word out to them is a tough road to hoe. And just like for the CERT programs, until I see the white of their eyes, I don't hold my breath anymore. To when says I'm going to be there, life happens. It's a different thing if you're required to be there because you're getting paid for it versus being a volunteer or just wanting to take care of yourself. We'd love to have everybody show up, but as I said, life happens, and getting people to show up is another thing, and that's the most difficult part, to get people interested, to show up and continue to show up to be part of it. The nice thing about Be 2 Weeks Ready is once you've got it going, you can keep going, and when you're done your 8 classes, you start on the next round, you start with a new class. And so if somebody misses a unit here or there, not a big deal. You can pick them up later on, somewhere along the line as it fits into your schedule. And so the goal is ultimately to have more than just one class happening at one location, that we have classes at different locations so that and they're staggered a little bit. And so that if you miss one here this week, you can go over there in a couple weeks or a week down the road and pick the same class up or figure it out a little bit later on down the road. Those are some of the experience we've dealt with and try to figure out and work around in Woodburn up to this point. And it's a work in progress, and we're looking at, we're not leaving any rocks unturned, trying to figure out how to get the community as a whole engaged in being emergency prepared. So that's where we're at in Woodburn.
All right, great. Thank you, Yuli. Yeah, I appreciate all your experience with this, and you've been around long enough to have worked with a lot of different people. So appreciate your insights into this. One of the things that's happening for some of the neighborhoods here in Eugene is not so much that we don't know how to get the word out, but it's refining the message and figuring out how to put a message out that is going to be noticed amongst all of the input that people are getting off social media and everything else. So that's part of it too. So that's one of the reasons for this meeting tonight, is to get kind of zeroed in on, okay, what exactly is the program? So all of this really helps. So we are pretty much on schedule, which is wonderful. So this will be great.
Yes.
So we wanted to allow Catherine Zuno to make just a very brief announcement, 1 to 2 minutes. So Catherine, are you there?
Yeah, thank you for inviting me tonight.
Okay, great. Catherine, wait until we can get you spotlighted. Robert's looking to spotlight you before you speak. There you are.
All right, y'all set? Okay, so basically, I'm Catherine Zuno. I am with the City of Eugene's Emergency Management Program. One of my main duties is to handle public outreach, and specifically our CERT program that we operate that covers the cities of Eugene and Springfield. So we are just in the very beginning phases. We had a 75% reduction in our staff, a turnover in our staff. this last year that rolled out just prior to the rollout for this Be 2 Weeks Ready. So it was very bad timing. And so we have been able to finally get all of our normal tasks done, and we are working on formulating what we're going to be doing. By the end of June, we should have a very good timing. We're going to be working with, hopefully, Ready Northwest and a few other people to try to work together to roll out a program that is based upon potentially what Yuli's been doing. So we're pretty excited about that, but I'm the contact for our CERT from the city. And we're looking forward to rolling out the Be 2 Weeks Ready across the board to our whole entire community here as much as we can reach. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. So I'm going to go ahead now, and I'm going to turn the meeting over to Randy Prince, and Randy's going to lead us with Q&A and discussion. I think you might want to do a little bit of discussion before the Q&A, but just a reminder, write your questions in chat if you have any, with a Q to remind us that it's a question rather than a comment. And also, if you want to, you have a choice in this section. If you want to write your question, you can write it. If you want to, you can also raise your hand, and then we can call on you to get a question, as many questions as we can. And just a reminder, the raise your hand feature is under the react button. So if you see at the bottom of your screen that cute little heart,
Yes, that's
you have to click on that,
Yeah.
and it will open up, and then it'll give you the choice to raise your hand, and then afterwards you can lower it. But it used to just say raise hand, and it was easy to find. Now it's not always easy to find. So Randy, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Sandra. And yeah, you covered that instruction. Besides our Q&A and discussion, I wanted to spotlight or have people who are involved in the CERT areas. Let's introduce them. Several of them are here. And maybe if you've got the gallery view of everybody, if you could just tell us what part of the town. I see Carlos Barrera. You are a CERT coordinator. And could you tell us what part of the city you, I'm asking him to unmute, and there it is. What part of the city are you a coordinator for CERT in?
Well, I'm the district leader for the southeast quadrant of the city, which is everything south of the river and east of Chambers.
Excellent. Thank you. Ed Farron, you're sort of in the same, you are, tell us what you do, Ed.
I'm Northwest Eugene district leader, which is the Bethel, River Road, and Santa Clara neighborhoods.
Very good.
Total of about 48,000 people.
Thank you. And I saw, there's Andy Davis down there. Andy, tell us what's your role?
Hi, Randy. Glad to be here. Andy Davis. I'm the Northeast District CERT leader. I'm also the Eugene MCOM net manager and also the CERT damage assessment team coordinator.
Very good. Yeah, those were the people that we wanted you to see who they are, because you might be working with them later. And
we also have a CERT person from friendly area neighbors too.
Okay.
Is it Thea? Did you want to?
Well, that's her. There she is.
Yourself?
Yes, thank you. I'm just a volunteer.
Okay.
I just try to do a little bit of everything, but I'm not in the CERT hierarchy. Thank you, Sandra.
Yeah.
All right. And we said announcements. There are some, if you're a CERT, there are some meetings upcoming. I'm going to let people find those CERT meetings coming up, I think as early as early February. There is a showing of a movie, Rumblings, at the Art House Theater this week after this weekend, but it might be difficult. There are two showings, and perhaps there are spots left. That's Sunday, the 26th, and that'll
Where
some of
will that be?
that's at the Art House Theater on 13th Street.
Oh,
You can
okay.
go online and see the first
Yeah.
one filled right up, the tickets, which are free. And it's University of Oregon experts and some others, and there'll be some tables. So those are the only announcements I can think of right now. We're going to go to questions. If you write your questions in the chat, Sandra has kind of monitor that. We'll make sure we get them. I appreciate Erica's boldness there and asking about first aid and how we access this program. So we're not going to forget those questions. But I wanted to ask some questions, just three, of you, the audience, and I might call on a few people, but appreciate your responses to help us get our thinking caps on. And it has to do with what are we preparing for? What are you prepared for? And how are you going to like being in a group to study all this? So my first question is kind of a two-part. If you're in a fearful mood or you're having a nightmare, what disaster worries you most about life here in Eugene, Oregon? Is it the big earthquake? Is the wildfire sweeping in like we just saw in California? Or the ice storm that traps you in your house for a week? And who are you going to call? Those communities? Are you going to go to your neighbors to help them or have them help you? Or are you going to call the people in a group you're in, your church group or your coworkers? That's my question. Think about it. Why you're here at this meeting? Is it maybe because you're worried about a disaster? Does anybody how about Misty there? Misty, do you have a response? Do you worry more about earthquakes or fires or what? And who would you turn to?
I worry about the state of our dams and sudden failure of our dams due to earthquakes or just neglect. And I would turn to Ed Farron.
Okay.
But also, yes, I've been to many classes and I have a understanding that in these situations, I'm pretty much on my own. And so, being prepared as much as possible. And
Okay.
yeah.
And so I think I'm kind of referencing the topic here of communities in this program. What about Sue Cummings? I think I know you from a group we're in. Well, what are you interested in? Fear about disaster and you want to be feeling better about it. And who would you turn to?
Oh, I guess I am concerned about the earthquakes and the bridges, all the transportation system possibly falling
Okay.
apart. I think I would turn to my close neighbors and my family if I could get in touch with them.
Very good. Okay, well, I think you get the idea. And because you saw some of this type of this information come out in the reports from California, like who told you where to go and when that fire came in and what are you most worried about? So I encourage you, if you have a response, please put it in the chat to share it with us. It'll help us design a better program and get more people interested. The second question maybe doesn't apply to everybody, but if you've gone camping in the last 5 years, you probably noticed it's a bit of a project to get all your gear together to be a week ready for out in the woods. What did you find the most difficult of getting ready for camping? We got any campers out there? I know it's a lot of work for me to get there before somebody else grabs the campsite. Was it getting the water, the food, your clothes, make sure your car is taken care of, locking up the house? Any responses? Anybody want to wave their hand or raise your hand? Because I'm going to call on you if I don't hear. How about Ed? Ed, do you go camping?
Not really, no.
Okay, that's all right. I'm not gonna. Do we have any campers out there? Want to share their maybe you don't have the same experience as me, but it's something to think about because you don't have to wait for a disaster to find out just how ready you are to have all the gear you need to go with. And again, If you've got a comment, we sure appreciate it in the chat. Last question. You want to study this preparedness? You may be participating in a small group or did so in the last few years. Maybe it's a book club. They still have those. Bible study. Maybe it's a work training group. You get together, once a week or something and you study something. When you're in a small group session, what do you wish could be better? You wish the speaker could be better? You wish your members of the group would stop chatting so much? Better coffee, decaf, warmer room, more comfortable chairs? How about Bob down there? Bob, you got a comment? You ever been lately in any of these small group sessions, which would be like the Prepare to, Be 2 Weeks Ready program?
I've been a camper for about 50 years. I have all the equipment. We have tents and cots and sleeping bags, and we have a very small backyard that will provide enough room to set up a tent, and we wouldn't have to gather much gear. I've got water. I've got E-Web's 2-gallon and 3-gallon and 5-gallon water, water jars, water bottles, and we have emergency food. I feel like we're as ready as we can possibly be. And you asked a question earlier about what I'm concerned about. I wouldn't say worried, but I am trying to prepare for the big earthquake. And
Okay.
somebody mentioned dam failure, and that's a kind of a secondary consequence of a big earthquake. And I haven't studied the effects on the local reservoirs of a dam failure, and I'd like more information about that. So if anyone in this group has more information about the consequences of dam failure upstream of Eugene, I would like to hear about that. Other than dam failure and just the immediate consequences of an earthquake, those are really my main concerns. I don't think we're going to experience fire like they're experiencing in LA.
Okay.
I just don't see, any other, ice storms. Okay.
Yeah.
They're a minor inconvenience.
Bob, thanks for telling us what's top of your mind. That'll help us kind of
Yeah.
adjust the focus. And basically, if you're as organized as Bob, the going camping part doesn't seem to be much of a problem. Matt in the chat mentioned something that's a problem for me, making it all fit into the bag or the car or whatever. Have you tested, your gear? Let's go back to the third question I asked about groups. How do you like being in a group studying something? Say, Lucy Bambry, you want to?
Hey, Randy,
Yeah.
before we call on Lucy, we've got 2 people with hands up. We've
Oh,
got
I'm
Carlos
sorry.
and Fred. Yeah, I thought you might.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then we'll get Lucy. Hi, Lucy.
Exactly. Where's there it is, Carlos. Tell us which question you're answering, and
I have answers for a number of these questions and suggestions in terms of having your camping gear prepared. A person can never tell exactly where they're going to be when a major disaster occurs. So I suggest to people that if they travel by car to go shopping or to work or something, that they keep in their car whatever emergency supplies they might need in order to get back home. After the Loma Prieta earthquake, some people took 18 hours before they could get home, simply because the transportation systems, roads or bridges or whatever, may be obstructed with fallen trees, particularly like after an earthquake or heavy wind damage, and it may not be possible to drive back home. You may have to walk. So you may need appropriate shoes. You may need clothing such as a raincoat and or warmer weather. You may need some food to help sustain you, and also water for that trip back home.
Okay.
In my own car, I carry a tent, a ground cloth, water, a water purifier, about 80 granola bars, and extra clothes, so that if I'm away from home when a disaster strikes, I have the equipment to sustain myself until I can get to someplace else. In terms of the dams, that's a real concern of mine. The Army Corps of Engineers says that the Hillcrest Reservoir up east of Eugene Springfield area, that it will survive a major earthquake, but that's not the whole story. The Hillcrest Reservoir is a very large reservoir, and it extends down along kind of like a canyon, and all along that canyon there are high bluffs. Just a couple of years ago, one of those bluffs collapsed on its own and closed the road that goes across the Highway 58. It took several years for that to be cleared. If those in a big earthquake that'll last several minutes of shaking, probably a lot of those bluffs will collapse into the reservoir, each one creating a tsunami of their own. And if those tsunamis keep hitting that earthen dam, it could cause it to collapse. And in that case, it'll take out all the reservoirs and dammed areas below.
Randy, could I?
Thank you. Yeah,
hop in here?
let's we want to get this onto questions. I thank you for your response. I think we're seeing there's a lot of concern with the earthquake issue, and Kayla, our primary speaker, mentioned how if we're prepared for that, we might be well prepared for the others. Fred, did you have a response to one of my provocative questions here before we go to general questions?
Sure. I also am concerned about dam failure as a result of the earthquakes, because I live about 1 block from the Willamette River.
Okay, thank you. That's what we were curious about. And
Randy, could I cut in here just
yes,
real
please,
quickly?
Don, go ahead.
This is Dawn from Reading Northwest Eugene. I would encourage, I'm cutting in because so many of you are interested in the dam issues, and I want to encourage you to go to the Reading Northwest Eugene Emergency Preparedness YouTube channel. Go to YouTube and type in Ready Northwest Eugene Emergency Preparedness, and you'll see a drop of all of the presentations and Zooms that Ready did over the years. And one of those was a very well presented presentation by the Army Corps of Engineers about the dams in this area. And it may need to be updated. You can tell us if you wish to, that you want to hear an update on it, but it was a very well done, and many of us felt reassuring presentation from the Army Corps of Engineers about the dams. And there's a public database you can search. You can see what their status is. You can see what the most recent assessment was. It's pretty reassuring. We were reassured, I think, at the end of this, that the dams are under control. Some really good questions from the Ready Northwest team. So please go look at that, those of you who are concerned, and any others. And if you want to know more, it's Ready Northwest NW Eugene, readynweugene@gmail.com. You can email us and ask us to get that updated, and we can work on doing that.
Thank you, Don. That's very useful. Lucy, you got your hand up. I was trying to get a response from somebody. What makes a good group to get together and study things? And what's the best thing to pay attention to when you're getting your group together?
Okay, that's a really good question. One thing I would like to bring up before then is that, we've mentioned bridges and dams, but I'm in Southeast Neighbors, and I'm the head of the Transportation Committee. And we've been on and off trying to connect with the city and find out what plans, emergency evacuation plans they have, especially in the event of an earthquake, for the bridges, and there's at least 2 of them, over 30th Avenue going east from, let's say, Amazon Park area. There's one pedestrian bridge that I believe they're going to tear out anyway, but the second one is the Spring Boulevard Bridge that goes along 30th out to I-5. And we, along with other neighborhoods such as Southwest Churchill, South University, Fairmont, I think are concerned about what response we could get from the authorities if the Spring Boulevard Bridge at the top of the hill before you head down to LCC goes down. Because there's very, very few detours and workarounds for that particular bridge. And you have 4 or 5 heavily populated neighborhoods who would want to use 30th Avenue to get out to I-5. The last response we had from the city, which was almost 2 years ago now, is, you know, first of all, they don't really have an evacuation plan because it depends on the catastrophe. And second of all, they have a contractor who has large, like earth moving or debris moving equipment who they would have come out and start working on the bridge. And the question we had from them was, well, where are they located? You know, if they're located way out in Bethel and can't get to us for 4 or 5, 6 days, how does that impact the evacuation area for, you know, 3 or 4 heavily populated neighborhoods?
So Lucy,
really
you're most concerned with the after effects of an earthquake.
Correct.
And aren't
Or
you from
fire.
California? Aren't you from California?
No.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering. So you don't worry so much about a big fire coming in and sweeping in at breakneck pace before you even know it's coming?
Yes, I mean,
You do.
obviously, yes, we do.
Okay.
I think the thing that would affect the bridge most would be, you know, a shake and bake situation that would take out the bridges. I mean, yes, you can go west, you can maybe head south, but most people are going to try and get to 30th. Anyway, I just wanted to bring up the bridges, and we as a board for Southeast Neighbors haven't gotten a real clear picture of what the city would plan for emergency evacuations in a catastrophe. But if anybody else has had a more recent or better response, you know, let us know.
Well, we want to go and focus on getting, and I want to get general questions. Did you have any suggestions for how to have a group hang together?
Yes.
We talked about, you know, how you want to keep the people coming and everything. You got any suggestions for keeping your group
Sure.
on
I
task?
mean, I'm in several small groups. I mean, you know, 20 or under, including, you know, one with you and Carlos, that I find that having a place to congregate, even as a small group, can be difficult for planning, for getting people interested in coming to meetings. You know, you have Nextdoor, you have Facebook, but it depends on what social media you're familiar with. But I find that as an obstacle or a challenge of getting small groups going and sticking together and having a common interest that you want to work on. So I don't know if that really answers your question.
No,
but
the room is actually very important, the venue.
It really is.
Yeah, really appreciate it.
Randy, I'm going to interrupt here again.
Yes, please.
I'd really like to, this is Dawn again from Ready Northwest. Ready, before I became involved in Ready, and we're trying to keep it vibrant and what, the prior people did some spectacular Zoom sessions. One of them was the dams one that I just encouraged you all to visit. This other one was the bridges and the roads. And they weren't very as happy with that one as they were with the dams. But there again are possibilities for follow-up. So I would encourage you all to go look at YouTube, Ready Northwest Eugene Emergency Preparedness, and look at the dam video for the Zoom, and look at the other videos that might be out there that would interest you. And let's interact. Let's go back at those people again. We know who they are at Ready Northwest, and we can help put together another session with the Corps of Engineers to ask for update, another session with the state the DOT and others to ask them to give us updates. There are projects in process. They have a plan. Is it to our satisfaction? Perhaps not, but there's a whole lot of money involved. So what I would encourage you to do that and then communicate again, ready, NW Eugene at gmail.com, I think is our email. Ed Farron can help me with that. If I said that wrong, he's one of our coordinators. And then I would strongly encourage, Randy, that we go back to the questions that have been posed and that Sanders can.
Yes. Well, we got here already. We did hear, and somebody could probably quickly answer this. Free or low cost in-person first aid classes. Erica Lyon asked that. Does anybody know here in Eugene where you can get a good first aid class? I know I had to take one when I was in teaching. Anybody raise your hand there? That heart, the react. Oh, Kayla, you want to suggest a good way to get a first aid class for a person?
Yeah, so I put in the chat a link to Red Cross. I searched by Eugene, and it looks like they have online first aid for $35. And then you can do online and classroom for, I think it said $78. And then I also would just encourage you to reach out to your local fire department, see if that's something that they offer. But yeah, I just did that from a Google search. Red Cross, they were pretty prominent when I searched that.
Yeah, I did that too. That was like the first place I thought to look. And I thought it was still a little bit expensive because I want to get the hands-on training too. I don't want to just like have an online class because I want to actually be able to practice the moves.
So Erica, one suggestion, you might check with your neighborhood group and find out if there's any way to get some sort of a grant or something. I mean, there's a lot of need for people to be prepared, and so I can completely understand not wanting to spend your personal resources for that kind of training. So there's probably a way to get it paid for through an association, or even going directly to the provider and asking. So
and
another option is your local CERT program too. That's part of usually that's part of training that's provided. And then I would also recommend, if you ever have the opportunity, to do a wilderness first aid class. It's so great because you learn the skills to keep a patient alive and stable for multiple days out in the wilderness when medical help is not readily available. And that completely applies to a large scale disaster when first responders aren't able to get to you and to the patient. So there are a lot of great skills in that. So if you ever have the chance to do that, I recommend it.
So they offer something like that at Northwest Youth Corps, for example, maybe?
Oh, I don't know. That'd be worth checking. I know REI, the retailer, sometimes offers that class. They have a lot of preparedness and wilderness classes.
Oh, okay. So checking REI's website.
Yeah.
I bet it's expensive though.
Kayla, could you answer maybe Erica's other question? How can I access the 8-unit emergency preparedness class? Is that how are we going to? Those who want, are we going to? Shall they wait or give us their submit their email? What's up there?
Yeah, so I put the email in the chat, the community.preparedness at oem.oregon.gov. If you are interested in seeing if there is a program coordinator near you, just send me an email and I'll connect with them. Or if there are program coordinators in Eugene on this call that want to put their information in the chat. Some program coordinators are just focusing on their neighborhood to start. Others are, send us extra people. We want to reach out to other communities. So just send me an email and then I can get you connected.
All right. And we're done with my questions for you. So feel free to raise your hand and ask questions for our presenters or other people in the meeting, whatever you want.
Let's go for the presenters. I think we did have some questions. Sandra, did you have questions for the presenters themselves?
Well, I have a particular question for the presenters. I'm uncertain of whether or not the Be 2 Weeks Ready program has actually been completed by people, and how is it tested out, or is it just brand new? We just heard the city of Eugene representatives say that they're going to do a rollout in 5 months. I don't think the neighborhoods really need to wait to engage in the program. I mean, I know the city can bring a lot of resources to it and help coordinate and get word out, but I don't see any reason to wait for 5 months. But the real question is, Kayla, has the program been proven, I guess, at this point? And
So
Yuli's got his hand up, so he may have an answer too.
I'll let Uli go first.
Go ahead and unmute yourself, Uli.
Unmute myself. There we go.
Yeah.
So we've had a group of 11 people just complete the class. And I'm not sure what the long-term, that's still to be determined, what the long-term resilience part of it is. But they've all gone through all 8 units and have completed probably not all of the activity part that goes with it, but a big chunk of it. And it, it kind of is just like with a lot of other things, it's you get out of it what you put into it. But the ones that did complete the class were very active participants, and are willing to learn and kind of make sure that they themselves and their family were taken care of to some extent.
Okay, can we see some more hands?
Kayla had a response, Randy.
Yes.
Yeah, so the program went public in June, so we're just coming up on 7
Oh,
months.
Kayla, we're having trouble hearing you.
It's just a little louder.
How about now?
Still kind of faint. You were okay before.
I know. What about, is this better?
That's better. That's better.
Okay, weird. I was saying the program publicly launched in June, so that we're coming up on 7 months and there are 8 units. So some program coordinators jumped in right away. June, July, started rolling it out. The program is designed to be very flexible, so people can they can go through the program coordinator training and then they can roll it out when it is best for them, when they have the staff or the resources or the interest. There isn't a hard start and end date for anyone. So we'll be assessing in June, asking all the program coordinators to report back how many communities they've reached, which languages they provided it in, how many people attended, and then we'll also be providing some community surveys to see, hey, do you feel more prepared than you did after the training? Do you have 2 weeks worth of water? Have you started a food supply? So that's something that when we come up on that 1 year mark in June, that we'll be evaluating.
I'm going to add in, Randy, also that I was in one of the first, this is Dawn again, I was in one of the first, I think the second coordinator training, Kayla, and I have trained it several times. And that was one of my first questions for Kayla was how has this program been evaluated? And I believe you did put it through quite a testing process. You had trial runs on the program. It's been very well vetted. And again, as a professional trainer in my pre-retirement, I'm very impressed with how it's been developed and the activities and so on, et cetera. But you did put it through some testing efforts before it ever hit the printed page, Kayla.
Yeah, I did. Thanks, Don. Yeah, we had this program, before me, there was a team that started on it in about 2018. 2019. So this has been a long process to get to this point, but had a lot of work groups, a lot of eyes on the toolkit. And, to reiterate what Uli said, it's really you get out what you put in. So program coordinators, community hosts are meeting with communities, are providing the information, are answering questions. And so hopefully people feel empowered to start taking those steps to increase their personal preparedness. But we'll see. We'll do some community surveys and some evaluating after the program's had some time to be out there and really get people involved.
I'd encourage anyone who hasn't opened up the chat to look in there. There was some other comments that we didn't read, like donuts at your meetings, and
Food and coffee will get people in the door.
yes, actually, I have once hosted a national meeting of cooperative living groups, and people had flown in from all over. They were kind of tired, and I went to the store and I ground the coffee up really, and it was a great meeting. Everybody said they were all caffeinated. I don't know if I
Makes a
do the same. I'm decaf now, but there are little things that can really help your meeting bring out, all the talent you have and all that.
Were there questions in the chat session that
I hadn't noticed any more, but I do want if you
I
see
thought
any
I saw
more, because I wanted to. If there aren't any final questions, I wanted to go on to summarize kind of what topics and hear more suggestions. I'm hearing that you would like more information on earthquake. You're concerned with earthquakes and particularly this dam failure issue. And some have said it's bigger worry than you maybe. And Dawn is saying it's more reassuring. So it's kind of up in the air. I'm going to offer my personal thing is that I think I'd like more expert, maybe back and forth about do we need to worry about the kind of Santa Ana winds around here? I believe we do. But it's true. We haven't had one around here just because Phoenix and Talent burned down and the city of Bandon burned down in 1933 due to one of these wind episodes like you got in California going on now. Could it happen here? I think it could, and weather's changing. So that's my personal interest. I don't hear anybody else mention it, but I'm going to stick up for that because the preparation, you really need to be on top of things and know when the risk is there and be able to bug out in a hurry because you got all these people on TV saying, I grabbed this clothes and that bag, but nothing else was ready, So we could, in my view, but other people say, no, it isn't going to happen here. So earthquakes, I'm hearing from everybody else. Me, I'm hearing fires. Future topics for emergency preparedness, any other? And Kayla, go ahead and respond.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, I saw in the chat that someone shared that they're concerned about older adults, seniors, and individuals who are disabled being unable to evacuate. And I just wanted to share that we are hosting a community preparedness webinar in April and May. It'll be 2 sessions, and the focus is on preparedness for older adults. So we'll talk about how to stockpile medications. We'll hear from a pharmacist. What does that process look like? How do you navigate that? What are some scams to be aware of that often happen following disasters? The importance of mental health and having a social network and support before, during, and after disasters. We'll talk about emergency managers and organizations that have worked together during actual disasters to assist older adults, and emergency alerts. What are they in Oregon? Who manages them, and how can you sign up for them? And then emergency planning. So when do you evacuate? What do you have in your go bag? What are some things to take into consideration? So the flyer and registration should open up end of February. So I'll be sure to send that information to Dawn so that she can distribute it out to all of you.
And how do we find that list of the webinars that you just mentioned? I'm sorry if I wasn't.
Yeah, so it's a webinar. The list, it's not published yet.
Okay.
But when it is, I'll send that out. So if anyone would like to attend, they can. It'll also be recorded and posted on our YouTube channel and on our website if anyone would like to view it at a later time. And it'll be in English, Spanish, Vietnamese, Russian, and Chinese with American Sign Language interpretation.
So Oregon Emergency Management webinars, something like
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll put a
Okay.
link to our YouTube channel.
Okay.
You can watch last year's, which was for Spanish-speaking communities in Oregon.
Okay. Excellent. Misty.
Yes, just really quick about the who evacuates seniors and those disabled. I'm not sure if anyone saw the New York Times post about some family members that were disabled and
couldn't get out.
We lost them.
Yeah.
And I experienced a similar situation when I was answering phones on the emergency calls for 211 during our fires, and we had folks who needed to be evacuated in wheelchairs, and I was calling police officers to go help folks. And like, it's like, okay, go out to the side of the road and hope someone stops and gives you a lift. Came down to that kind of extreme situation. So I was just wondering if we learned our lesson from the fires of 2020 in helping evacuating our disabled folks who are kind of left to fend for themselves. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Randy, I just want to interject something in here. What Misty's just talking about makes it really critical that those of us who are working in neighborhood groups continue to network. And, you know, a lot of neighborhood groups are like, oh, we're overwhelmed, we can't do it, you know, we don't know what we're doing. I'm in an interesting situation. I lived in the Jefferson West Side neighborhood for over 40 years, and then I moved to the South Hills. So now I'm in Southeast Neighbors, but I'm on the board of Jefferson. So I thought, heck, we need to get preparedness going. So the way our disaster preparedness committee started is we just got together at a place where you could eat and have coffee. And we just started it at a level of where people were at. You know, they're interested, and everybody's got a different level of interest. And my approach is we are all prepared. We're at different levels of preparedness. And it's been really interesting to just start building a network. And we found out that there are a lot of resources in the neighborhood. We've got hams, we've got, you know, people that are professionals in disaster response. But I think what you're talking about with the elderly and whatnot, and I know Southeast Neighbors, Southeast Ready, you know, we've got the help or, you know, okay sign to put in people's windows. So it's really critical. And you start small. You know, we started with 3 people, our next door neighbors, but that's the way you do it, because we are going to have to take care of ourselves. So I know the person who can't walk, and that's one of the first houses that the neighbors will check. And so, you know, we have to be at that level at the same time that we're taking more sophisticated programs. So
Thank you, Sandra.
we can do it.
Yeah. Fran, we haven't heard from you yet, and you've been waiting patiently. Can you mute yourself and tell us what's on your mind?
Well, I guess 3 things. One is someone mentioned something that we don't have Santa Ana winds, but Holiday Farm Fire. It was a very unusual day, and there was extreme winds. I remember that day very clearly, and they said that that's what brought out what happened at the Holiday Farm Fire. So I don't think we're totally immune to that. The other thing is there's an increased amount of hypothermia deaths in the United States from heat and with climate change. So we have to be cognizant of that. Actually, I was at Green Hill when a dog came in from someone who lost housing, and that dog was hypothermic, and we recognized it and we saved the dog. But sometimes even humans, it gets missed. I know London Marathon, they missed a hypothermic person that they had hypothermia and they died. So those are things that you need to think about. Someone talked about the ice storm being a nuisance. Well, for us who have money and a house, that's true. I volunteered for Egan, and I not only took care of the chronic homeless, but people who lost houses, elderly people who really barely function normally. And the police brought them in because they had nowhere to bring them, because neighbors called for wellness checks and the police brought them in. So Egan became a place for everyone. And so I think ice storms can be very bad for people who live on the fringe to begin with, whether they're disabled or elderly. And I think we have to remember that. And not always do neighbors are able to respond because they kind of live peripherally, and the other neighbors are just in bad shape. So just to keep in mind, matter of fact, the ice storm, when I was at Egan, I said, we are not ready. Lane County is just not ready for any disaster.
Thank you, Fran. That's a good point. I'm just going to go very quickly here. You mentioned marathons. You mentioned hypothermia. It's been a few years, but at the end of a marathon, they wrap you in a space blanket. And having some space blankets, those silvery things, are so useful. And that's a real emergency
Well,
supply.
no, I didn't. I meant hyperthermia.
Oh,
Not
hyperthermia.
yeah.
Well,
So
I'm
at
still
the
going to
end,
say carry a space blanket.
right.
I've been on a forest fire crew and we were on the night shift. And when that cold set in, and it's summer, but it gets down 25 degrees, I was the one that was comfortable sleeping on the bare ground because I brought a couple extra space blankets.
Randy, I'm going to call the time here. We have 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we are
Haven't
going to
asked
have
our,
all further comments. Uli's up there, and Carlos had his hand up, so we're going to keep it down to minute comments so we can finish on time at 8:30. Uli, your thought?
I think, am I muted?
No, we hear you.
Okay. I think, you look at the communities in Japan where everybody is emergency prepared because they live much closer to being earthquakes and natural disasters on that side of the world. I think for us, it's phenomenal to see the number of people that have been here tonight to wanting to take care of themselves and be able to do something versus waiting for somebody to come take care of them. I think it's too easy for everybody to call 911 and somebody will take care of you. What happens if you can't dial 911 because everybody else is calling 911 at the same time? And so I think the more we can get the word out for people to help to take care of themselves rather than waiting for somebody else to take care of them, the better off we as a society as a whole are going to be.
Thank you, Uli. Are there any final quick comments? And also, how could a person access the links and comments in the chat after this meeting is over? Is that possible? Our hostmaster, Robert, can you, and while he's...
There is an evaluation form and which includes the opportunity to say what units you're interested in, and also has a email address request that you fill it out. Robert has put that into the
chat
session at this point. So if people want to direct themselves to the chat, you will see something from Robert.
Okay.
Directs you to the URL. It's Robert Sproul. It's a URL.
Is there a way to save the
encourage you,
chat?
Randy, excuse me, we encourage you to click on that link and fill out that form.
Yeah.
Which will include your email address, which we don't have yet. We haven't been able to harvest that with the method that we use to get you into the session. So we need your email address if you want to have any interactive opportunity with us. And then we will try to do follow-ups with you on the results of this meeting, which would be if people want to continue to have the dialogue, we can have more Zooms. We can have more dialogue specifically about B2 weeks, and we can look at the web, the YouTube items and see if we want to do some follow-up with them. So please fill out that form that you have a link for and put your email address in, and we will.
There's also
I'm good.
There's also a QR code that you can just take a picture with your phone to make it easy. We're going to adjourn the meeting at 8:30, but we can stay online for a few minutes so people can capture some of those. If they want to have it immediately, they can have access to the chat. Yeah, we will.
Everybody open up the chat and click now. And Carlos, your final comment. We got 1 minute.
1 minute.
My only comment was that I have a lot of answers to these questions. I've been studying the disaster situation for about 16 years, and people can contact me at insertse@gmail.com. That's incertse@gmail.com. I'll be happy to answer your questions.
And this program is being recorded and it will be posted on the Reading Northwest Eugene Preparedness channel on YouTube. On YouTube. So you can see this recording. You can get all of that info from Carlos and the others. We need to keep following up on this. We're excited about working with City of Eugene and any other entity that wants to be involved in moving this B2 Weeks Ready program. We are providing here, I think, a launch pad, and soon there will be a launch, hopefully, from the City of Eugene and other entities to help make this program happen here in Eugene. It could start in the neighborhoods. It could start with the City of Eugene. We have many opportunities and many interested people, obviously.
Thank you so much, Dawn. And I think that's the last word, really, isn't it?
Yes. And I just want to take the opportunity to really thank the people that brought this together, and that's Robert and Dawn and Randy. So, thank you so much for making this happen.
And I think John Murray was in on that too.
Oh yeah, John Q.
He had a connectivity problem, so John Q. Murray couldn't get connected.
Well, I just saw he was in there and he posted those links.
Great job, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, thanks, John.
Everybody.
Thanks, everybody. So we're going to stop the recording and we'll officially adjourn the meeting and stop the recording, and then we'll let people stay on a little bit to look through the chat, and then it will be saved too. So we'll have the information. So thank you all. So